Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to everyone's favorite show about plastic surgery, health, and beauty. This is Nip Talk. Segments for today. First off, venomous snake bites in the USA. How bad are they? Well, I got some interesting pictures you're going to want to see. And then, has Elon Musk had plastic surgery? The media thinks he might have. And then finally, a doctor amputates a penis during a circumcision? What? We're going to talk about that. It's all coming up right now.
Live from Lincoln Center in the heart of the Dallas Metroplex, this is Nip Talk. An honest and uncensored show about plastic surgery, health, beauty, and lifestyle with your host, plastic surgeon Dr. Bruce Hermann, and your co-host, entrepreneur and social media influencer Sarah Bennett. Now it's time to discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of the topics everyone is talking about. It's time for Nip Talk.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Please crush that like and subscribe button. Turn on those notifications. And a big shout out to all those people listening on audio podcast. I'm your host, plastic surgeon Dr. Bruce Hermann, and with me as always is the amazing Sarah.
Hi.
Sarah, how are you?
I'm so good.
Nice. Travis, tell me what the good news is.
So it's sunny in Dallas.
It is, and it's not hot.
Yeah, it's not
80s.
super hot. It's not no like rain or anything like that. It's nice weather.
Yeah, it's actually been good.
Yep.
Yeah, nice. All right, anything exciting happen? Any big plans? What's the good word? I haven't seen you guys in a whole week. Been missing you guys.
I'm not doing anything.
Nothing? Quiet weekend, Travis?
Yes.
So I have a little bit to do.
You do? Like work stuff?
Yeah, work stuff. So I'm going to the State Fair Classic this weekend. It's the opening of the fair.
Oh, right, State Fair. I love the State Fair.
Yeah, so I'll be going to the fair this weekend.
Now, are you doing? You're doing like a show from the fair, like your radio show?
The State Fair Classic is a football game. It's like two HBCUs.
Oh, got it. Football game. Got it.
So it's Grambling State versus Prairie View State.
Nice.
They always open the fair every year.
Do you now? Are you commentating the game or
no?
Are you just going?
I'm just going.
Okay.
We'll be going down just to have like station presence.
Nice.
And we'll be like on the field and all of that stuff there.
Now, do you have any preference in who wins that game, or?
Definitely Prairie View, just because it's Texas.
Oh, right. Prairie View is Texas.
Yeah, I'm a Texas team all day.
Yeah, me too. Definitely.
For sure. And then I have like a sickle cell event that I'm hosting before that.
Wow, like a fundraiser or something?
It's like a fundraiser, basically.
Dang, you're a busy man.
Man,
you're like important.
I just want to sleep.
I know, dude. I feel you, man. It's been like crazy for me the last couple of weeks too.
I believe it.
It's been nuts.
What about you? What you got going?
I got to work tomorrow morning. I got 2 cases on in the morning, and then there's a motorcycle meetup at like 11. I'm gonna try and make. And then I don't know after that. I think my wife has some plans for me. So, and I'm on call as always.
She made plans for you.
Huh?
Said she made plans for you.
Yeah, she actually does a lot of our social schedule. And Sunday, I actually may go see Weezer's in town Sunday.
Oh, nice.
And openers are the Flaming Lips and Dinosaur Jr., which is weird because Flaming Lips is like punk, Dinosaur Jr. like alt, and then you got like Weezer. But
I don't know. I've never heard of. I've heard of Weezer, but not.
Yeah, I mean, Dinosaur Jr. and Flaming Lips are a little bit older, like
obscure.
I mean, it depends. Like if you grew up listening to 90s music, you'd be like, oh yeah, Dinosaur Jr. Yeah, but they're like they were like along with the grunge bands out of Seattle. Yeah, they're like alt rock, like the original alt rock.
Okay.
So anyway, my daughter and I remember I took my daughter. Or I don't know if I told you, I took my daughter and her friend to see some odd person I'd never heard of, and it was kind of.
Who was it?
He trying.
Misha? No, I can't remember.
He's trying his hardest.
It was. She's like Japanese, I think, and it's kind of like. She kind of wants to be like Mazzy Star, but like not as. You guys don't know who Mazzy Star is, do you? Oh my god. So Mazzy Star was like this female artist like in the 90s, and I love Mazzy Star. It was kind of like that, but not near as good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And but the girls liked it. I took my daughter and her friend.
Is it like K-pop more?
No, it's like kind of mellow music,
Okay.
like folky mellow music, which is I'm surprised that the girls like that kind of stuff. But anyway.
Interesting.
But then they were like, hey, will you take us to see Weezer at the end of the month? And I was like, oh, Weezer's gonna be here, and so I looked it up, and so that's Sunday, and I don't have tickets, but.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah, I always figure
Find a way.
I may do it the thing we did before, which is wait till the very last minute, like just drive down there without tickets and then buy them online, because people start dropping the prices like pretty precipitously as the show gets like about to start.
Right on.
So I may do that. I don't know. I love Weezer, and those other two bands are good too. It's like, I mean, they're old now, but you know what? I mean, they're still probably pretty good. I hope. They're
That
not
sound exciting.
Yeah. So I may end up being pretty busy this weekend. So we'll see. I don't know. I'll give you
Fun
full
weekend.
report next week when we meet back up. So, all right, let's jump into some segments. So this first one actually was really fun for me to do. It was really interesting, and it came about because of two patients I had in the last week. And this segment is about venomous snake bites in the USA and kind of comparing the different snakes and how dangerous they are, how common the bites are, I actually did a lot of snake bites when I was doing my training because I trained in Kentucky and Tennessee. And I don't know what it is about Kentucky and Tennessee, but people out there love to pick up venomous snakes. I don't see nearly as many venomous snake bites here in Texas.
Just out there.
They're just out there grabbing venomous snakes, man. It was super common to get snake bites. I probably got one a week out there. Here I may see one a year.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, like we're in the Dallas Metroplex, but like I'm kind of on the edge of the metro, so there is like north of us a lot of open land, and there, I've killed copperheads in my house, 2 of them. So they are around. But anyway, so I got 2 snake bites in 1 week, and both of them let me like take pictures and said that I could use them. I was like, I should do a segment. So here we are. So there are 4 species of venomous snakes in the U.S. All right, I'm gonna quiz you guys. What are the 4 venomous snakes in the United States? Start calling them out.
Well, you said copperhead. So.
Okay, Sarah got the first one.
Rattlesnake.
There you go, 2 more.
That's my
You guys need to know this. What if you're out there in the wilderness?
One of those red ones, the red striped ones.
Yes, coral snake. Good
Okay.
job, Sarah. Last one, lives in the water.
Moccasin.
Yeah, there you go. Good job, everyone. All right. See, I grew up like out, like doing stuff outside, and so it was like ingrained in me as a kid. Okay, these are the snakes you got to watch out for. So I'm going to talk about coral snakes first because one, they're very, very rare and they're different than the others. And so I just want to knock them out. So coral snakes are different than the pit vipers, which are the other 3. And there's a picture. Throw up that coral snake. No, the next one. That's all 4. Okay, yeah, that's all 4 of them right there. All right. Now throw up the next picture, Charlie. There's a coral snake. Now, do you guys know that there's a saying about how to identify a coral snake?
I do know that.
Oh, tell me, Travis.
Red and yellow, kill a fellow. Yellow and red.
Red and black.
Red and black.
Friend of Jack.
Friend of Jack. That's
Yeah,
it.
you got it. Yeah, because there's a king snake that looks very similar to that, but the band colors are changed. And so if it's red on yellow, which you can see right there, it will kill a fellow. But
Yeah.
if it's red on black, which that one's not, it's friend of Jack. Because king snakes are actually good. They kill a lot of pests.
Right.
So coral snakes actually have super, super potent venom. And it's also a neurotoxin, which is the worst kind of poison or venom to have. But they have very, very small fangs. And in order for them to bite you, they literally have to chew. Like, other snakes will strike and they can hit you really quickly. A coral snake would literally you'd have to let it bite you.
Like
in order
chomp on you.
Yeah, like chomp on you. And so because of that, there's very, very few coral snake bites every year. There's only about 20 per year in the whole United States. Plus, there's a lot less coral snakes. They only live in like West Texas, New Mexico, Arizona-ish, and like really nowhere else. And so because of that, even though their venom is very, very potent, I've never seen a coral snake bite ever. You probably only see them if you like work out in Arizona or somewhere. But so that's coral snakes. So obviously if you see one, don't pick it up, don't let it chew on you. Red on yellow, kill a fellow. Travis had it on the mark. Okay, so let's move on to the next group of snakes, which actually there's a lot of. And so there's about 8,000 venomous snake bites a year. That's a pretty decent number. And these are the pit vipers. They're called pit vipers because they have a little indentation around their eye which senses heat. Identifying these guys, I'll tell you, like I said, growing up I was always out in the wilderness. Yeah, so that's a copperhead there. We'll jump into that in a second. But one thing you'll notice about these pictures, and when we go to them in a minute, is pit vipers have a triangular head. It really is triangular. Like I've seen rattlesnakes in the wild. I'm not sure if I've ever seen a moccasin, but I've seen rattlesnakes and lots of copperheads. Their snakes are rectangular. Go back to that coral snake, that red and black or red and yellow fellow. Yeah, you see how that snake's head is basically just looks like its body? It's
Yeah.
like round, okay? Now when we go to the next one, you'll see that they have a triangular head. Well, it's not a great picture because it's on the side, but if you're looking over the top of it, its head's shaped like an arrowhead, all right? Also, pit vipers have an eye like a cat. You know, it's got the vertical eye, which I don't advise you getting close enough to see their eyes, but that is when we can see it. Now, pit vipers have a hemotoxin, so that's different than the neurotoxin. So hemotoxin mostly affects your blood and your blood vessels, and it can cause blood vessels to rupture, and they also cause you to bleed a lot. And so when someone gets bitten by a pit viper, immediately a lot of pain, a lot of swelling, and then followed by bleeding, tissue necrosis, and if you get enough venom and it gets into your circulation, you can get hypotension. But although they're dangerous, the number of deaths in the United States from snake bites is around 5.
Okay.
So 8,000 bites per year, 5 deaths. Mostly that's either extremely elderly people, infants, or people who just get bit and don't seek any type of medical intervention. Basically,
it's
if
like
you
a
get
slow
the,
death.
yeah, I mean, and most people will survive a snake bite even if they don't seek attention, but obviously you should. And there's 3 types of bites, and this is good to know because it will determine how much venom someone might get. Like if you scare a snake and it just strikes out at you, they call that a defensive bite, and they can regulate how much poison or venom that they inject, and they don't like to just like use it willy-nilly because they have to use resources to create it.
Yeah.
So most of the time defensive bites are dry, like they won't inject venom. If they're doing an offensive bite, like that they're kind of coming at you, or if they're doing prey, they do a moderate amount of venom, so that's like legit. But the worst is the agonal bite. So an agonal bite would be if you were causing pain to the snake and it really thought its life was in danger.
Yeah.
They will dump their entire load of venom in, and those are like the most dangerous. So I want to go through each of the snakes and just give you some like brief details, and then we'll see the pictures, which are super cool. Well, I don't depend on if you think that kind of stuff's cool. So throw up the first one, the copperhead. I see these guys all the time. No, back up. That's a rattler. There you go, copperhead. They really do look like that almost always. They have this kind of coppery and red alternating pattern. They got the triangular head. They're not really big snakes, maybe a few feet long, but they're super prevalent. Like I said, I've killed 2 at my house since we've lived there. They are the most common snake bite in the United States. They account for about 50 to 60% of all snake bites.
Wow.
And it's because they're so widespread. Like they can be like in suburban neighborhoods. They live among people. They're not necessarily aggressive, but since they're around humans so much, interactions happen.
Yeah.
Fortunately, they have the least potent venom of all of the 4 venomous snakes. The next one is the rattlesnake. Easy to identify because of the rattle. Yeah, there you go. Have you guys ever heard of rattlesnake?
I think so.
I've not.
You haven't? Dude, it is freaky. I used to be out on deer leases, and a couple times I've come up on rattlesnakes, and they will let you know that they're there. It's like this weird, I wish I'd have recorded a video. I didn't think about that. It's like this very kind of eerie, like buzzing rattle sound. Almost like somebody was shaking a Morocco, like with like a machine where it's like that. So they're nice in that they let you know that they're around. So like if you don't mess with them, they will alert you they're there, and you can just avoid them. I think that's why there's less bites with rattlesnakes, because they're also pretty widespread.
Yeah.
They have the most potent venom of any of the poisonous. Well, of the 3 pit vipers, they have the most potent venom. I don't think it's as potent as a coral snake, but once again, they don't. There's not a lot of bites.
Yeah.
It's also the largest of the snakes, and so larger snakes tend to give more venom. And then finally, we got and so they make up about 35%. So copperhead's a little over 50%. Rattlesnakes about 35%. Last one's the cottonmouth. Throw that rascal up there. Water moccasin or cottonmouth, they're generally black or sometimes olive. They have a very white mouth, hence the name cottonmouth. Also, they're called water moccasins because they pretty much only live in water. They like really swampy areas. Sometimes you can find them in lakes. If you search really hard, you might be able to find one around here, but there's not going to be near as many as you might find.
I've seen one when I was floating down the river one time.
Did you? Yeah. I mean, there are other water snakes too, so, sometimes they'll get confused. I mean, moccasins tend to be pretty big. But there's only about 10% of the bites come from them because they are pretty reclusive in the water.
Yeah.
And, they're not just going to swim up and bite you for no reason. They have moderately potent venom, so it's kind of in between the cottonmouth and the copperhead. Now, have you guys ever heard what to do if you got bitten by a snake, poisonous or venomous snake? No?
No.
I mean, you always hear stuff like, oh, do you need to suck out the venom, put on a
To, like,
tourniquet,
stop it
blah, blah, blah.
from, like,
yeah.
getting
So I'm going to
wherever
let
you're
you guys
going.
know that there's been a lot of studies done about if you do these things, whether it be suck out the venom or put a tourniquet on or put ice on it or whatever, and does it change the mortality rate or the morbidity, which would mean the complication rate? And the answer is no. Basically, doing all this stuff out in the field is just a waste of time. So if you're ever with somebody or yourself and you're out there and you get bit by a rattlesnake, copperhead, or whatever, like all you need to do is keep the victim calm. Like don't let them freak out, because if their blood really starts pumping, they can potentially get the venom spread out more.
Right.
And then get them to a hospital as quickly as possible. And if it's an extremity, keep it below your heart, which once again kind of tries to keep the venom from spreading around. When they get to the hospital, the main treatment for these is antivenom. Have you guys heard of antivenom? Yeah, so that antivenom's a thing. So basically that's made by injecting small amounts of venom into like a horse. The horse will make antibodies to the venom. They then pull the blood out. They can isolate the antibodies. And
I didn't know it came from a horse.
yeah, generally. I mean, you can do other animals. I think horses are the major ones that they do, because a horse is a big animal. You can put a little bit of venom in it, and it's not going to, affect it.
Yeah.
And then you can harvest that blood back and get the antibodies. Nowadays, pretty much everyone gets antivenom. I mean, 20 years ago, we sometimes were not always giving antivenom if it was, potentially a dry bite, but now just with, people being litigious, like everyone gets antivenom.
Yeah.
And it's very, very effective. And you're going to see that in a minute, because I'm going to show you some pics. All right. So first pic is a person that got bit on the toe by a copperhead.
Yuck.
Yeah, pretty bad. So the bite was right at the end of the toe. You can see the toe is super black, and then there's this huge blister of fluid coming out from the toe onto the foot. And I got consulted by the doctors in the hospital, and they're like, this person's going to need surgery, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, we'll see. Strangely enough, although you can get a lot of really aggressive reactions like this, it's actually pretty rare to operate on snake bites. The treatment really is give antivenom and, just supportive care. And most of the time, something like this can be handled non-operatively, which is what I did. So what I did is I took off the blister. There was a blister on the toe itself, and then the big one. Flip that next pic, Travis. Yeah, so that was basically just 5 minutes after I took the first pic. I cleaned off that big blister. It was full of water. Underneath was healthy tissue. That's skin there. It didn't get all the way through the skin. It's almost like a sunburn where it blisters, or like if you burn yourself on your stove, you get a water blister. You unroof that, and actually there's healthy tissue underneath. And if you look at the toe, it's still pretty dark even after I unroofed it, but you can see that red along the edge. That means that tissue is also alive. Probably what will happen is over time that will start to pink back up, and I don't think that this patient's going to need surgery. So after I did that, I checked her the next day. It looked even better. The toe was even more red. I just sent her home, told her to follow up in a few days.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty typical copperhead bite path where it looks pretty nasty, but really it's not quite as bad as it looks. And as long as they get antivenom, you can handle it non-op. All right, throw that next picture up there. So this is a patient that got bit by a water moccasin. I didn't see this patient initially. This patient actually got bit in another state, and they were having a lot of problems, so they asked to transfer him into a place for a little bit higher level of care. So that was the day of the bite, very shortly afterwards. Now, after this happened, he got sent home. He did not get antivenom. He was in some small rinky-dink place. I don't know if it was like an urgent care center or a hospital. They basically looked at this, gave him some, pain meds, told him, I think, to put ice on it, and sent him home. He got much, much worse. He eventually went back to the hospital a couple days later. It looked really bad. Allegedly, I don't have a picture of what it looked like when he went back to the hospital, but a surgeon there saw him and had to take him to the hospital. And throw up that next pic. Yeah. So they had to basically open all of that up. It went all the way down into his wrist. They said that his forearm got so swollen that they actually had to open it up because they were worried it would cut off his blood supply. Throw up the next picture. Yeah.
Damn.
So that guy took a pretty good wallop from that water moccasin. I think that if he'd have gotten antivenom, the first time that he went to whatever place he went to, that all of this would have
His
been
hand's so swollen.
Yeah, it's pretty typical for.
And it's an old man.
He's not that old, middle-aged. Yeah, he's middle-aged. I mean,
Wow.
he looks rough because like his arm and his hand just swole up so badly from the venom.
Will they replace that skin? That was
Yeah, so
Skin
what I
grafts.
probably will end up doing is now that the swelling's come down, I can actually probably close that area on his forearm. The skin's a little bit more flexible. Like they didn't remove skin there, they just slit it because his arm was so swollen that they were worried that the pressure was going to cut off his blood supply to his hand and his hand might die. So actually all the skin is there, it just got separated from the pressure, and now that the swelling's gone down, I probably can just close that. I don't think I'm going to have to do like skin graft. That's a good question, Travis. Actually very, very accurate, that if that skin would not pull together, then you would do a skin graft to that. Yeah. But because the swelling's gone now, probably I can just close that. But the problem that he ended up having is he got some really bad infections in there, and he still has them to a certain degree, and I don't want to close that if the infection's still there. So I just am kind of waiting him out. He's getting antibiotics.
That's
And then once I get
gross.
cultures that are clear, then I'll work towards closing all that. But yeah, it's a good example of what can happen if if a venomous snake bite isn't treated at all, or if they don't give antivenom. It has the potential to be pretty bad. Now he didn't get like really sick, like he was about to die sick, but obviously it did a ton of damage to the area where he got bit. And once again, that is a water moccasin. It's a little bit more potent than the copperheads, which are the most common. But then again, think about the rattlesnakes, which are even a little bit more potent than that.
Yeah.
And you start to see that, yeah, these venomous snake bites, although they can really
mess you up.
Yeah, they can mess you up, and you're probably not going to die from it, but he may end up having permanent, disabilities with his hand because of everything that happened. So
Yeah, it looks pretty gross.
yeah, so definitely, if you live out in the country, or even like in some suburban neighborhoods,
I get snakes in my yard, but I think they're rat snakes.
Yeah, I'm telling you,
I pick them up with a shovel and just throw them over my fence.
Actually, snakes are really good for having around your house because they kill pests.
Yeah, that's why I don't kill them.
But then again, like I killed a copperhead just last year on my porch, and I felt bad about it. But I got dogs, and I don't want my dogs
Yeah,
to
I
get
swear,
bit.
I think something bit Musa, and his face was all swollen.
Could have been.
I don't know what it was, but something bit him.
Could have been. I mean, it could have been like a dry bite or like a tiny bit of venom. Most of the time when snakes bite,
'Cause it
they're not
didn't-
trying to kill you. They just don't
Yeah.
want to be jacked with, right?
Yeah.
So unless you're like hurting them, sometimes they'll bite you, and it'll just be like a little bit of venom or even what they call a dry bite is obviously when they bite you and they don't inject any venom.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought this was pretty interesting. I actually didn't realize, how many snake bites happened a year. I really had no idea. I kind of thought copperheads were the most common bites because I see them literally not all the time, but
I'm assuming that most of the people that get bit by snakes are male.
it depends. If people are doing dumb stuff, then yes, they tend to be male. But like a lot of times people, will just be like out in their garden and, like for example, that first patient, that was actually a woman, and she was just out in her garden and she had sandals on, and she just, kind of came upon the copperhead, and it just tagged her before she could see it. And so,
That makes sense because it was on her foot.
yeah, when I lived in Kentucky and Tennessee, I got a lot more patients that were,
I was trying to catch it.
yeah, I picked up this rattlesnake. Whoa, what? Yeah, I picked him up. Why? Why would you pick up the rattlesnake?
Why would you do that?
That sounds like a bad idea. And, yeah, you got a lot more stories out there. People just, he was in the barn. I went and grabbed him by his tail. I was going to toss him out, and then he turned around and got me. And like, you grabbed the poisonous snake by the tail? Like, what?
You have a very potent country accent.
Yeah, I know, right? That's from living out in Kentucky, It kind of wears off on you. You try not to let it. And it's like, we was out there in the barn, and them rattlesnakes just get in there and get the chickens. So we was grabbing them up and snatched them, tossed them over the fence.
Very strong.
You like that?
Very strong.
Thank you so much. But yeah, really interesting. Poison. And you know what's interesting? So I was thinking about this last time I was doing this segment. The snakes over in like Australia, Africa, and Asia are like 10 times more deadly.
Everything in Australia is made to
everything
kill
wants
you.
to kill you, right? And it's funny. So it's like, why in the United States are the snakes kind of wimpy, but in Asia, Africa, and Australia, I mean, literally, if you get bit, if you don't get to a hospital in an hour, you're dead.
Yeah.
I think it's I I mean, not to get into philosophical and, kind of discussions, but I think it's evolutionary pathways, right?
Yeah.
Snakes that were, evolving in those countries had a lot more predators and different prey.
Yeah, there's way bigger animals over
Yeah,
there.
so like they had to develop these really potent venoms or they just died out.
Yeah.
Over here we don't have the number of predators.
Yeah,
that,
we don't have like all of those
like lions and jaguars and tigers.
Yeah, we got bears.
Huh?
We got bears and some
bears,
small cats, some smaller cats.
Yeah, but definitely not as dangerous. And so I think that's probably the biggest reason is just over the years.
And think about like all the big reptiles that are over there that they probably share space with more.
I know, right? I mean, it's dangerous over there.
Yeah.
Over here we got kind of mild animals. Although I'm not a big fan of bears.
No.
Yeah. Bears are dangerous.
They sure are.
Yeah, I would not want to mess with a bear.
Yeah.
Just FYI. I don't think we have bears here in Texas, right? Bears,
Maybe.
Travis, no bears in Texas? Maybe out.
I don't think so.
Maybe out in Big Bend.
Maybe in Big. Oh yeah, I think there might be some in Big Bend.
So.
I did it. Like I said, I did some time in Kentucky and Tennessee. When I lived in Tennessee, I did a lot of mountain biking and hiking, and of course, in the hospital I worked, there's like a memorial to some mom that got killed by a bear. I'm like, why is this here? Like, this is like terrible. Like, so yeah, I never went out in Tennessee unless I was armed. I was always armed in Tennessee because this guy is not getting eaten by a bear. That just sounds terrible. So
that would be a bad way to go.
that'd be bad. All right, let's move on. Next segment. So this segment is actually about a person I really, really look up to. I don't really look up to a ton of people. That's just not my thing. I'm like, oh, that person's my hero. But this is a segment about, did Elon Musk have plastic surgery? This guy is always in the news. I mean, he basically makes the news. But this past week, he popped up in kind of some of the little threads I follow about, did he have plastic surgery? So a couple of years ago, so Musk is 53. So a couple years ago when he was 51, he was out in Greece on some boat and there were some pictures taken and everybody was like dogging him. I mean, I wasn't dogging him like, this guy's got a lot on his plate. Maybe he didn't have time to hit the gym. But I thought those pictures, Travis, of poor Elon where people were dragging him, they were body shaming him. I mean, come on, the guy's not 20 anymore. And so I wasn't going to beat him up about his looks or anything. But I think he kind of took it to heart because that was like summer of 22. I think I said 23. That was summer of 22. And shortly after that, he started really kind of getting into, his like workouts and like, making sure he ate right and everything. And, then people were like, oh, how did he, and he lost like 30 pounds.
Yeah.
Like he lost a lot of weight. And then people were like, did he have weight loss surgery? Well, he came out and just flat out said, look, I was taking Wegovy, which is semaglutide, Ozempic.
Yeah.
It's like the other Ozempic. So, he's using semaglutide.
He was developing an apple shape. Like,
He was.
Yeah, so it's like
Yeah.
just his body type was developing into that.
And he's a
like
big
where he has
dude.
like a big upper body
Yeah.
and like smaller skinny legs,
Yeah.
arms and stuff.
And
so
that's common how
bad for
men-
your heart.
Yeah, men will commonly, assume that shape because we talked about
Yeah.
before how people store fat. And so Elon was, not looking quite as trim as he had in his past.
Yeah.
So anyway, he popped up in the news this past week, though, not because of that. And it all started when he was seen with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. And he was looking pretty svelte. So pop up those next couple pictures. Yeah, there's that one. Like he looks like a different person almost. He looks very trim. You can see his shape is like, he looks kind of like this athletic build. I think there's another one there. Yeah, there's him and the Prime Minister. And then there's also this is kind of a side note, but all these people started talking about, is he dating the Prime Minister of Italy? Like there's one more picture
Isn't
there.
he married?
No. I mean, they look like they like each other, right? I mean, they're about the same age.
Yeah.
Anyway, but so on a side note, Elon says that he's not dating the Prime Minister of Italy. But
Okay.
rumors started floating about, has Elon had plastic surgery? Because he does look a lot different.
Yeah.
He's thinner. He looks a lot more chiseled. And, people were saying he's had Botox, that he's had fillers, has he had a facelift or neck lift. So I flipped through all the pictures and, I kind of follow Elon, and to me, he didn't have any type of drastic change.
Yeah.
Everyone's comparing those pics of him where he's all pasty. I mean, those are 2 years ago. He's been working out a lot.
Weight loss can do a lot for
Yeah,
your
weight
body.
loss does a lot. And, when
And
you
your
look really
face.
close at some of his pics, you can see that he's lost a little bit of weight. I might believe that he's done something non-surgical skin tightening, maybe like a laser or Morpheus or something. I could believe that. I mean, that's pretty common for people who lose a little bit of weight and got some skin looseness. But yeah, I don't really think that he's had any work done, like major work, maybe something non-surgical.
Yeah.
I don't know, what do you guys think? I mean, do you guys follow Elon at all?
No, but from those pictures, it just looks like he lost weight.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes, especially whenever people lose weight, their faces are the first thing that you can notice.
Right. Remember the
when they
Ozempic
lose weight.
face? We talked about that. Yeah, totally. And honestly, that's something that makes people look aged because, it's the one thing that weight does positive for you. If you have extra weight on you and you have some weight on your face, it tends to make your face look younger.
Yeah.
And so when people lose that weight, and that's where the Ozempic face came about, which is, that's kind of dumb. I mean, when people were doing weight loss surgery, we didn't say weight loss surgery face, but the same thing was happening, right? I mean, when you lose weight, like you start to get the hollowness in the cheeks, like it makes you look older. And so ideally the best thing to do is not gain the weight ever, because then you won't get the sagging if you lose it. But stuff happens, people gain weight, people lose weight. But yeah, when you look at him really close, I mean, to me, I don't think he's had surgery. The first thing I looked to see if I could find any pictures of him with sideburns. That's the way you tell if a man has had a facelift or a neck lift, because if they've had a facelift or a neck lift, that takes away the sideburns. And yeah, because when you make the incisions and you pull the skin forward, like the sideburns get pulled into the area that the skin's cut off.
So like they can't have sideburns anymore?
No, not unless they want to, graft them on or tattoo them. Nope.
Interesting.
Now with women, women don't wear sideburns, right?
Yeah.
And most women are the ones getting facelift. I mean, some men do it, but yeah, if I have a man come in for facelift, neck lift, the first thing I tell him is like, hope you don't ever want to have sideburns again, because they're going to be gone. Yeah. So I don't think he's had recent plastic surgery, but there is one plastic surgery I know that Elon's had. You guys know what it is?
What? His eyes?
Charles?
Hair surgery?
You got it. Go up that next. You might be cheating. Are you looking at the pictures?
I absolutely am.
Nice.
I absolutely am.
So that's Elon at 22 or something, early 20s on the left. You can see he's really kind of losing his hair pretty rapidly there. And then that's a picture of Elon, I think, a year or so ago. I mean, obviously, without question, he's had a hair transplant.
Wow.
He's probably using hair loss drugs as well, just for maintenance. I mean, I've been very open. I take those too. I started to lose my hair in college, and not like that, but like just a little bit. And I'm like very vain, so I kind of freaked out. So I've been taking finasteride forever, and I don't have like a perfect hair, but I'm also old, so I'm hanging in there, right? And actually, there's a picture where you can kind of see where he had his hair transplant from. Throw up that last one. So yeah, you can see it on the monitor. When he has his hair really short, it looks like he has a scar there in the side of the hair. So if you guys aren't familiar with hair transplants, basically you take hair from an area that never goes bald, and you individually splice each hair into an area where you do go bald, and those hairs take, and there you go. You can replace hair that you lost.
Yeah.
So I'm 100% positive he's had a hair transplant.
For sure.
His hair, he's got great hair, and he was, really balding when he was like 20, and that doesn't just magically reverse itself.
He was looking rough.
Yeah, he looked a little rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's actually looking pretty good these days. I mean, he's, looking kind of svelte.
There's this isn't there some famous place where guys go to get hair transplants?
The biggest place in the United States is called Bosley. There was a Dr. Bosley that kind of
I know.
it.
Yeah, I know. But what city is that?
So the original Bosley was in something weird like Arkansas or Missouri, but they started opening branches in major cities.
Okay. Well, there's this video on the internet where it's I guess that's a city that has one of those, and she's like, it's always cool to see what people are traveling for. And
wait, you're not talking about Hair Club for Men, are you?
I don't know, but you could see men's hairs that were there was I don't know 10 guys with their head completely shaven, and you could see all of the
scars.
Not even, I don't know, just like little dots all over their head.
Oh, plugs.
Yeah.
So that just means it's not great work. So when you're doing a hair transplant, and I've actually done a couple. I did some when I was in my plastic surgery training.
Do you have to have your head shaved completely? Because their hair looked like they were not shaved, but a buzz cut.
No, in fact, you don't want to shave your head.
Well, I don't know what they were doing then.
I'm not sure. But basically, you harvest a piece of hair with the skin, and you basically, it's very tedious. That's why I don't like them. You have to individually cut the hairs, and then you use a special device to pluck them into the scalp where you want them to go. And man, I hated it. It was too tedious for me. Like, you don't want to take big chunks, because if you do the big chunks, you'll get like the plug look, and you don't want that. You want to do like 1 or 2 hairs. That's it. And man, it was just so tedious. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that when I get in practice. And plus, a lot of times people go to specialists who only do that, like Bosley or whatnot. So I was like, yeah, I'm out on hair transplants. I'll do.
How much does hair transplants cost?
I mean, it's probably equivocal to, other surgeries. Like, if you want to go get a series of hair transplants, you're probably looking at, $5 to $8 grand. But you might need more than one, right? So, but yeah, I mean, it's not like out of the world expensive, but it's surgery, right? Surgery is expensive. So.
Yeah.
All right, Elon. I think the only plastic surgery. Elon, come on the show, man. I'd love to meet you. I will fly you in anytime you want.
Yeah, drive your refrigerator down here.
Yeah, drive your. He's here in Texas, Starbase or whatever. He's here all the time.
In Austin or in Dallas?
Yeah, he has a house at whatever that town is that popped up where the Starbase thing is.
Oh.
Yeah, he lives around here. He lives in a very
interesting.
And it's interesting. He's the richest guy in the world. He lives in like a very just regular house. Like, it's not a mansion at all. Like, it's just a regular home.
Nice.
Yeah, he's down there.
Lives within his means.
Yeah. Okay, let's do the last segment. This is a bad story. Not good. There's a lot of badness in here. I think there's a couple things to learn from it at the end. As always, when we talk about these bad outcomes, it's like, what can we learn from it? So this is about a OBGYN who accidentally amputated a penis when he was doing a circumcision. This is out of what state, Sarah?
Florida.
Got it. There's another story out of Florida. Dr. Berto Lopez, an OBGYN, was just this last week found liable for a $100 million verdict in a malpractice case where he reportedly amputated 1/3 of a baby's penis in a botched circumcision.
At least it was only a third.
True, because it wasn't his first time.
Ugh.
Apparently he did this in 2017 and the baby lost their entire penis. And we'll talk about how that may have went down. Now here's where it starts to get crazy. Not only crazy because it was the second time, but he actually performed this procedure 10 days after the Florida Medical Board voted to permanently revoke his medical license. Okay? He didn't tell the family about that his license was revoked. So obviously that's problematic. The reason it got revoked is because one of his patients, a mother, bled to death after a delivery, and apparently he did not treat them appropriately. At the time that patient bled to death...
That is so messed up.
It keeps getting worse. At the time that patient bled to death, he was under a probation from the medical board where he could only operate under direct supervision by another doctor. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you really mess up and like the medical board thinks that you might be a hazard.
Don't you have to notify your patients that, like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm kind of not the greatest doctor?
I don't know what the laws are state to state, and that's a really good question, Sarah. I don't know if you're obligated to say that or not. I bet you're probably not.
Like, if he's having to work only with another doctor, isn't that mean probation? Like he's some type of
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
But
yeah.
you have to tell people when you're on probation, don't you?
I don't know. That's a great question. I bet it varies from state to state as well. I've always talked about how Florida has really kind of loose medical laws, and I think that's why we see so many.
Can you see it online? Can you see?
Yes, and that's something that I will definitely mention.
So
No,
everybody needs to go look at their doctors.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, the reason that he was on probation on that other death was because he had another patient who died from bleeding in a surgery. So I started digging through this guy, and there actually was an article listed out. All in all, this doctor was tied to 14 serious injuries to women and children and 6 deaths, 2 of them babies and 4 of them women. It's crazy. He also had 4 disciplinary actions by the medical board and 9 malpractice lawsuits.
Hate him.
Man, that is bad.
Where did he get his degree from?
I don't know. He's been in practice.
Florida?
He'd been in practice so long. He was apparently practicing for like 30 years, which, I was kind of looking up because OB is one of those specialties where people get sued a lot. but it was saying the average OB will see 2 to 3 lawsuits per career, which that's terrible. Like, I mean, I get that, OB is one of those specialties where things can go bad very quickly, and sometimes things can go bad and you may not be able to, save it.
Yeah.
My wife was an OB for years, and she got burned out because, she had patients that would come in, no prenatal care whatsoever, babies crashing, and all you can do is just take them back and get the baby out as fast as possible, but the baby doesn't do well, and then, the people are mad because the baby didn't do it
so
well.
So people that get pregnant really never go to an OBGYN?
Yeah, absolutely. It happens a lot. They just do no prenatal care. We actually, when I was in medical school, we actually delivered a lady who came in who didn't even know she was pregnant. She literally said she didn't know she was pregnant. I mean, obviously she's a bigger gal, right? I mean, if you're your size, you're gonna know when you're pregnant. Bigger gal, she didn't even know she's pregnant. So yeah, it does happen.
I've heard stories like that.
Yeah, I met somebody like that.
Yeah.
And I asked her, I was
stories. I feel like there's they made a show out of that.
Oh, did they?
I didn't know I was pregnant or something.
Yeah. You have to be pretty big to not know, but I mean, I asked her, I was like, very politely, I was like, really, you didn't know?
Because their periods are off.
Anyways.
Yeah,
she's like, my periods are always off anyway, and I just, thought I was gaining weight, and I now looking back, I guess I could feel the baby move, but I thought I just had upset bowels or something, right? So it does definitely happen. So obviously, this guy is
trash,
not a good doctor. And my first question is, how do you botch a circumcision? I mean, obviously, you probably don't have any idea how circumcisions are done, and there are several techniques, but when I was in OB as a student, it was our job to do the circumcisions. It was either us or the interns. The interns would teach us how to do them. It's almost idiot-proof, depending on the type of method. Nowadays, they use what's called a plastibell, and so it basically goes over the penis, and all you do is you tie the skin onto this little groove in the plastibell. And then once you do that, you just use scissors and you trim the skin. I mean, it's pretty much idiot-proof. I don't know how this guy did this. And not only did it once, but did it twice. I tried to look up what technique he used, and I couldn't find it. That's kind of really detailed information. Right? They wouldn't just be in a news article.
Maybe he's getting some type of brain issues.
Maybe. I mean, was there some sort of substance use or whatnot? And the other question is, how did the medical board allow him to stay in practice with all these bad things happening? I've said many times that I think that.
Is it state medical boards or national?
Yeah, it's state.
But obviously Florida has some pretty crappy boards then.
I think they might, because it's we keep hearing these crazy stories out of Florida where things happen, and I'm like, how does this happen? How does this happen? And it's not their first time.
Yeah.
They're repeat offenders of doing bad things. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do think that in some states, and I think Florida is probably the leading candidate, I think that the doctors may have a little bit too much protection. But then again, there's other states where I think that there's not enough.
Yeah.
I think Texas is pretty good. You see the medical board does come down on people here.
Yeah.
I think that there's a pretty good balance here. But yeah, I'm not sure.
But you're also not out there making crazy mistakes like that, dude.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, anyone can report anyone to the medical board, and so I've had, the random patient that,
hated you,
gets upset, and they'll report you, but they look into it, and you send them information. They're like, yeah, there's nothing here. I mean, I've never had any action against me whatsoever, but I've had, I think 2 people report me to the medical board. One reported me, and I didn't even see the patient. They saw my nurse injector, and they had a tiff, and so they reported me, and I'm like, yeah, I didn't even see the patient. But yeah, our medical board here in Texas, I think, is pretty good. But I'm not sure about the Florida one. I mean, obviously they revoked this guy's license, but what, after all these people are already dead? I mean, I don't know. I want to get a representative from the Texas or from the Florida medical board up here. I want to ask them the hard questions.
Yeah. What are you doing?
And I guess the other reason, and you were asking this, how do you know? Most states, and I know Texas does. I assume every state does. You can look up on their medical board and do a search to see if a doctor has had any action against him.
Okay.
That's a pretty searchable function. It's not a national thing, but I'm pretty sure every state has that option. I'm not sure that that's not a bad idea to do. I mean, I would say this, if you look up a doctor and they have like, okay, doctor was disciplined for one thing, you'd be like, it could be nothing. But this guy had 4 or 6 disciplinary actions by the board.
But how many people have died because of him?
6.
That's horrible.
Yeah, I know, right? Scary stuff. I mean, just like every profession, you know, there's you know, great lawyers, great police officers, great doctors, but then, you know, there's always going to be a small percentage that are not great.
Yeah.
And, you know, you don't want to rush to judgment, but I think in this case, with all of these bad things happening, like there's just something going on with this guy. Either he's, you know, maybe too old.
I wonder when did it all start? When did he start having all these issues?
When I was looking back, it went back to like the 90s. He's been practicing 30 years. Because there was one of the articles listed out all of the patients he's had that where he was either sued or there was like some medical action. I mean, because you got, you know, 4 board complaints, 9 lawsuits. So
it's just like standard procedure for him?
Yeah. I don't know how he stays
to be
in
messing
business.
stuff up.
I mean, obviously he's not in business anymore. He's a lot
It's before Google reviews and internet?
Well, I mean, some of his career was,
Stuff.
Some of his career. I think the internet does make it easier to like search.
Yeah.
It makes it easier to search things like medical boards. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, crazy stuff out of Florida. They never disappoint us with some shocking story. So, all right. I think that's all the time we have for this week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have any comments or have any questions about what we talked about, please leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you. And we'll see you guys next week on Nip Talk.
Bye.